All right, everyone. Welcome to Toronto's North American podcast, where we're talking about everything that's going around Toronto and around the GTA. I'm here by my dear friend Kevin Brun. He's going to go ahead and give you a quick little intro about himself, and then we'll get going on this. Kevin, tell us a little bit about yourself, buddy.
Hey buddy, how's it going? Pretty well. I just live in Barrie. My name's Kevin Brun, and I like skateboarding. Into metal music. I'm in a metal band, and yeah, that's pretty well it. I'm a pretty simple guy. Like tattoos.
Okay,
That's pretty well it, buddy.
sweet. So, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today was I wanted to definitely get your take on what's going on with all of these those alien artifacts that have been popping around all over the country and all over the world and stuff like that at large. So, what is
Yeah.
your take on that? What do you think about that shit that's going on? Isn't that a little insane?
Oh, the monoliths,
That's
eh?
right.
The
Yeah.
those big metal monoliths.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, when it first happened in Utah, I was like, holy shit, like this is crazy, right? Because it was in the middle of friggin' nowhere, right?
Yeah.
And at first I was like, oh my God, like this is insane, right? And my mind going. But then when it disappeared too, I was like, holy, like this is crazy. But then when it started popping up other places around the world, I was kind of it's probably everyone in on it, which is still crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like having that many people in on it worldwide is absolutely insane. But it got my mind going about aliens the first time when it popped up in Utah. But then when it started popping up, I could see a little bit of differences in the monoliths, how they were built and stuff like that. I can see the little differences, and it's still cool as hell. But I think it's past the point where I think it's just a bunch of people in on it that are sci-fi fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it stirs up that curiosity and it makes us wonder and it
Oh
makes
yeah.
people like, holy shit, what if this is for real? And it's like, holy crap. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I can't help but just kind of feel like it's there's a human hand involved because there basically is. It seems as though that's definitely where it's pointing towards, and people have probably come out. I haven't stayed on top of it as much as I would like to because life kind of happens, but it kind of
Yeah.
reminds me of I'm sure you've seen Thor, like when they discovered the hammer inside that ditch in the first movie, and then you see a bunch
Yeah.
of people trying to come and pull it out with their trucks and chains and all this shit, right? So in
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
mind, I imagine that it's kind of like the opposite, where like a guy comes with a flatbed truck, puts the monolith up, and he goes like, "Let's just get fucking people talking about this shit."
Yeah. 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 No, it's still pretty cool. Cool concept. It sucks the one in Toronto got vandalized to hell though.
Yeah.
That would happen in Toronto. That was their mistake. The aliens coming there.
Of course, what do you expect, right? Like, quick question, like in contrast, you've been back and forth from Toronto to Barrie, I know on transit a couple of times, like visiting back and forth, whatever.
Hmm.
What what's the what do you prefer, Toronto or Barrie? It might be a bit biased because you live in Barrie, but whatever. Let's hear your 2 cents on
Yeah, I grew up in Barrie, so yeah, obviously I'm a little biased. Like I like going to Toronto to do, you know what I mean, like medieval times. You got the ROM there, like the cool shit you can go and do. There's bars everywhere, all different, right?
it.
As for Barrie, I like it just because it's smack dead in the middle of everything, right? You know what I mean? You got the city, 40 minutes to an hour away south, and then you got cottage country,
Yeah.
20 minutes to a half hour up north. You can go cliff jumping and shit like that. Barrie's around a nice little lake.
Yeah.
We got beaches and stuff like that. It's got a couple skate parks, so it's a perfect spot for me. I don't like the big hustle and bustle of Toronto. But Barrie is like the perfect size for me. And like I said, I grew up here, so I am a little biased. But uh, when I first left Barrie, I moved out to Alberta when I was 21, I think.
Yeah.
And I moved into this little town. I think it was like 12,000 people.
Yeah.
And I remember like before I left, I was like, I can't wait to leave this shithole. Barrie's such a shithole. And like you don't realize how much you like your shithole until you go to a worse shithole. So
Yeah.
it really made me like my city a lot more. So when I moved back, I appreciated it a lot more. But yeah, I like living in Barrie. I like being able to drive away from Toronto, get away from all that busyness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Barrie's pretty low key city. So I do like Barrie a little bit more. But
Yeah,
Toronto's definitely Toronto's definitely big for doing stuff though, like medieval times. I went last year to medieval times before this lockdown happened and shit, or I guess 2 years ago now. So
yeah, fucking, I remember going there and like seeing this fucking medieval times. I only been there once, even though I've been in the city my whole life, and just like
yeah.
fucking the show that they put on for people is fucking truly insane. Like those
Oh
guys know
man.
what the hell they're doing. I suck for it. Sucks what's happening with them right now with the COVID and the pandemic. You know, it's really got to be impacting them hard. But
Hmm.
hopefully they're getting some type of support and shit like that from the government, because I can't imagine a business hit harder than that, right? Like if you think
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. Yeah, no, that place is amazing, and like the people that like what they do there, they stay in character. I remember the last time I went, we smoked a joint right before we went in there, and
Yeah.
yeah, as soon as I walk in, like people, hello, me lord, and bowing to me and shit. I'm like, yo, I don't know if I can do this, boys. I just started laughing so hard, but
The
no, it
first
was.
time I got interested in going there was, I believe it or not, Cable Guy with Jim Carrey. Remember when
Oh yeah,
they
oh
like,
yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm
They
like,
go to medieval times. Yeah.
like this shit looks insane. But yeah, anyways, that
Yeah.
was just, yeah, I just wanted to get, because I have heard quite a lot of people, ironically, I was reading a recent study recently, and there was a mass exodus from, don't bite my head up if I'm wrong, YouTubers or whatever. I believe from 2019 to 2020, so many people flocked out of the city to move into like the urban areas, the more quiet areas, the more chill areas in and around the
Mm-hmm.
GTA surrounding, Barrie included, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Innisfil, wherever they're headed and stuff like that. I think there is like, I think the main one of them, obviously the main factors is just that they've priced people out so hard from living here. And also, it's like, dude, why would I pay $1 million to not have a driveway, not have a backyard, not have a couple of bedrooms, a couple of washrooms, and just
Mm-hmm.
like the little, necessities of life, right? Like I'd kill myself to live here for to have less things, like
Mm-hmm.
less land, less luxuries, I guess, and less amenities when I could just live a bit farther away and still do my regular commute to work and have
Mm-hmm.
live in more comfort and more of a palace, right? What are your thoughts on
Mm-hmm.
that? Like, would you ever wanna? I know you don't like the hustle and bustle, and I'm with you too. I don't like the
Mm-hmm.
congestion and all that shit. But would you
Mm-hmm.
ever throw in your hat, your Barry hat for a Toronto hat to be more? Because what they say is on the scene.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess like Toronto, yeah, it's Toronto is the center of the universe, right? So if
According
you
to
want to,
some.
yeah, if you want to be someone, you got to move to Toronto or you got to play in Toronto, you know what I mean? Like as for my band, like when we were trying to get shows, yeah, obviously Barrie local scenes was doing amazing because of you know, Fox Lounge, especially that was a rock bar in Barrie. They were keeping the music scene alive here for a long time, which is unfortunate. They actually shut down due to COVID, which is sad because they've been around for a long time, and they're my good friends.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Shouts out to
owners.
them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're my really good friends. But yeah, I don't know. It all depends, I guess, on the situation. Like I said, with work, like I'm in the union. I build bridges, and to get the city rate, you have to be working in Toronto.
Yeah,
The city rate's like 40 something dollars an hour, but then when you work past Simcoe County, it goes down to like 28 to $30. I'm losing like $12 an hour working up here instead of working in Toronto, which is I know Toronto's really bad to live in, like the price wise and stuff, but Barrie, like rent wise, is like pretty well the same now. It's insane, but I don't know. It all have to depend on if I was doing something for work or if you know what I mean, something that would have to make me want to be there constantly.
right.
I don't know what that reason would be, but
Yeah,
again, something with the music scene would probably make me want to move there.
yeah.
And like I said, even with my job, if I moved there, yeah, I'd be getting paid good, but then again, the rent and the cost of living in Toronto is ridiculous, man. I can't. I like having a car. I like being able to go places, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. Like I couldn't even imagine owning a car in Toronto, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
ridiculous, man. So
yeah.
yeah, I
Really,
don't know. I don't know what would make me want to do that. It would probably have to be something very with like my band or music wise for me to move there.
where can we if you go ahead and plug your friends, like where can we find some of your music and some of your friends that are, on the Barrie scene and stuff like that? I want people to always have a chance to get their work out there, right? Especially artists.
Yeah, so Oh man, there's so many. A lot of my buddies, my band, unfortunately, we don't have any content out just yet. So,
Yeah,
but we do have a Instagram page. It's Fracture the Sky Band, and other my other buddies, a Particle Apart. They're big guys in the metal scene here.
yeah.
Um, yeah, they've got a page too, a Particle Apart. Who are my other buddies here? My buddy Austin Clark. He's a really good rapper. He's coming out and he kind of does some I don't even know what you call it, some more like kind of R&B stuff. He's a good guy coming out of the scene. He toured over in Amsterdam, I think, not too long ago. So he was doing pretty good there. He was going to the U.S. and stuff for award shows. So he was
Okay,
doing,
nice. So
yeah.
you heard from Kev, go check out those people. I'm sure they're freaking as talented as he says they are. So no harm in checking them out, I'll tell you that much. So we kind of veered off topic there because
Hmm.
I did want to get your, I still did want to touch on a few subjects about what this podcast is kind of about, which is
Hmm.
generally, Toronto living and what's going on around that scene. But that's a little bit more of the byproduct of the main conversation I want to have with you, which is more what I think you and I connect on, which we've talked about in the past, which is the paranormal. I wish I
Hmm.
had like a soundbite here for some creepy music, but yeah,
Oh yeah.
for now we're gonna have to just do it, this style. But anyways, man, let's say now, for instance, those monoliths were a lot more mysterious, and we were having a hard time nailing down where they're actually coming from. What do you think that means to humanity if we are getting these little traces of, these hints of visits from something that's not of this world? Well, how do we address that as just people?
Oh, oh man, it's insane because you know what, like just like those documents coming out that one bill that Donald Trump put out before he ended his presidency
Build a
there.
wall?
Yeah, yeah. No, not the wall. The
Yeah.
wall won't keep out aliens, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, no, like the all the documents that have been released and stuff like that. Like if these monoliths,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like the monoliths, yeah, it's kind of a joke now, but like you know what I mean? These things, I think there's been things like these monoliths come out, like these lights in the sky, like the Phoenix lights. I don't know if you ever heard of that. Where it was like over thousands and thousands of people seen it. It was this massive triangle ship that made no sound, and it went right over top of Phoenix, and it was like 10 football fields this size, and it blocked out
I
the
think
whole
I did.
sky.
It sounds like the Battle of for L Battlefield LA. I know that stupid, not the movie, but like
Yes,
something like
yeah.
that happened along
Back in the
the line.
back in the 40s, I think it was,
Yeah,
wasn't it? Was it World War II? They thought there was something
something like
there,
that.
and they were all shooting at it and shit. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that.
yeah,
But yeah, no, it means everything for humanity. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's been an age old thing. With UFOs and aliens. Like, are we alone and stuff like that? And I think with these new documents coming out too is very important for us. Especially, I tried to go in and look at them, but I don't know if it was my computer or something. It just wasn't bringing me up the documents that I wanted to.
yeah,
It gave me a link, but there's actually a lot of videos of people that have gone through the documents and have posted videos about it, going
yeah.
through the actual documents and saying that there was some documents saying that we've been in contact with two civilizations, extraterrestrial civilizations, for over like 50 years or something like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's crazy if you actually go in and look at it. Like, but I don't know. I think if people need to see things with their eyes, their own eyes, to be able to believe. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely. I've often said that the at least I guess it's a bit subjective. People have their own reasons and meanings in life, but I've often said that three of the biggest mysteries outside of my own, maybe my own personal, like what is the meaning of life? It's a little broad, but whatever. I would say that for me at least, that I would like to hopefully get the closest possible answer I can, if not definitive, at least a close answer before I die, is
yeah.
it is what happens after death?
Hmm.
It's one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Is there a God? These
Hmm.
aren't necessarily in order, but there's just really three at the top of my
Yeah.
list. So, what happens after death? Is there a God? And uh, are there aliens? Now, when I
Hmm.
say aliens, I'm sure that there's I don't mean like microbial life and bacteria and stuff like that, because that's pretty much been for the most part already confirmed on, Mars
Yeah.
and all that stuff, right? I'm definitely not a,
Yeah.
scientist to go into every single little detail, but
Mhm.
what I mean in that sense is like a Jar Jar looking motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Some guy that can be like, Mr. fucking blah, 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 right?
Yeah, exactly. You
Helping
know what I
helping Jedi's out across the universe. Yeah.
Exactly. Something along those lines. That I would like to make the confirmation before I check out of this life. But I'm like, fuck, I knew it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's what I think is gonna be like like what could be the bigger discovery than those three things. Now I think that the death and the God thing are just so, I think those are the most unlikely to be truly uncovered, because I think it's just going to be everybody making their best guess, like, oh, I
Mhm.
think you're going to this or you're going to that. And I was watching, I can't remember which comedian it was recently, but my brother sent me a video for it. And fuck, I always forget his name, but he's fairly famous. He says, if Jesus ever came back, all these Christians wear a cross. Do you think he wants to see a cross?
Yeah. What makes you think that he likes crosses? Like,
Yeah, after what happened to him, I'm pretty sure the last thing he wants to see is a cross.
yeah.
But
Yeah. Exactly. Right.
so, anyways, um, who like I think those answers are more those are going to end up being just a subject of the debate for thousands of years. But if like a fucking alien comes and you see him, I think that's going to be more like, okay guys, the cat's kind of out of the bag on this one. There's no need to fucking debate. Like we just need to communicate, learn their culture and whatever, right? So I don't know, do you think that's going to happen in our lifetime or no?
To be honest, I do think it will. I do think it will. I don't know about intelligent life, but I feel like sentient life, like you know what I mean. Like I feel like it's so hard to say because like there's like been like these whistleblowers saying that there's going to be disclosure for years. I've been looking up this stuff for years. You know what I mean? And like I've had guys on YouTube say, oh, they're going to disclose all this information within 2020. It never happens, and then you listen to their newer stuff and they're like, okay, well, you know what, oh no, next couple of years. So like you never know, right? Like
Yeah.
even with all these documents coming out basically proving that this is a thing, right? UFOs are a thing. We are being visited by these things that we don't know what they are. Who knows? It could be interdimensional beings. It could be, you know what I mean? It could be some ancient race that lives underground that has crazy technology that lives in the hollow earth. Like it could be fucking, you know what I mean? It could be multiple things, but I think it will. I think something big will happen in our lifetime, whether that's us figuring it out or us discovering some sort of trace of intelligent life in like the solar system or outside our solar system. I think something will happen in our lifetime, big like
I
that.
I have faith in it and I hope so, but
Mhm.
I know it's hard for me to make a strong commitment to whether or not I think it will or won't happen, only because, like, when I see our lifetime, our lifespans in the grand scheme of the universe and all this shit, it's like a blink of the eye, flash in the pan. Like, I
Yeah,
want to feel like I'm special, but sometimes it can be a bit tricky in the grand scheme of things, where it's
yeah,
okay, so it took like the Earth, the universe is 13.5 billion light years across, and
yeah,
I've been alive for 32 years, and
yeah,
100% the aliens are coming in my lifetime because
yeah.
I'm special, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's the thing, right? Like our universe is just a big cycle, right? And like
Yeah,
you know what I mean? There's planets that have already their sun is already burnt out, and they've already apocalyptic event. There's nothing left on that planet. Who knows what could have been there? Fucking 2 billion years ago, right?
right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Think because it's so vast across,
Mhm.
and it might be hard to pinpoint where we are down the trough or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
Think about the ancient civilizations that could have been birthed from, say, they were around from when the universe was a billion years old, and then we started, say, even at whatever, just my, off the top estimate guess, say we started becoming who we are to our current form from 10 billion years. So
yeah,
if a civilization has been alive and been around and has a jump on us, has a head start of 10 billion years, like, what the fuck? It's incomprehensible about what they could or could not know, or but it's just freaky to. I think one of the main reasons we want to know is it's so quiet and we feel kind of lonely and alone. Like, why
Mhm,
in this big void? Why only us? It looks like
mhm,
we might be rare in a sense, the way our conditions of our planet are with the
mhm.
water and the climate and the atmosphere. Fine, that's a fair argument, but planets are super common. We're not planets are not
Mhm,
uncommon. What is it like fucking 5 planets for every star,
mhm,
and there's
right?
billions of stars in just the Milky Way, right? So it's like, why so quiet,
Mhm,
right? It's a very fucking strange like
mhm.
enigma. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to say
It's ear
what
it's yeah, it's right. Like it's eerie how vast the universe is. Like even they said they're finding these habitable planets, whether it'd be better for us, but you know what I mean. Like they're finding they even say the habitable planets are
yeah.
pretty common too, right? And like, but and then still there's still nothing. So it's you know what I mean. But like I said, like it's kind of like Star Trek, the Prime Directive, right? Or I think that's what they call it. The Prime Directive was for them to look at us but not be seen, right? Not
Yeah.
interfere,
Like we're an
not
ant farm.
interfere,
Like we're an ant
right?
farm.
Right? You don't interfere with like a civilization trying to, you know what I mean? Like the one Star Trek movie where they come out of the friggin' ocean and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all the aliens are like, oh, like to the ship
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
drawing the ship and they all start
Right.
worshiping it. And like, if there's a civilization that's that old and that technologically advanced that it can move from star system to star system across a galaxy or who knows from galaxy to galaxy, do you even not think they'd be able to cloak themselves for us not being able to see them? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like who
Sure.
knows? You know what I mean? And especially
And
with the UFOs. So
it's funny you brought that up because there was a civilization on Earth that was very, very like isolated from the rest of civilization, and they were on some little butt fuck island. No offense to any of those people if they're watching, but I seriously doubt that they have an internet connection.
yeah.
And, um, they they saw an you know what this yeah, and I think this was a very back in the day story too, like 40s, 50s. Again, if I'm wrong, don't bite my head off, people. But like time wise, and they saw they saw the World War II jets going over the carriers and all that stuff, and they were like, and they never had even seen a plane before, so they literally built like a fucking mock plane out of wood, and they started worshiping it.
Oh really, eh?
Because yeah, but that's they don't realize, dude. If you just take a fucking little boat down to the next little friggin' you know continent there, you'll see that there's plenty of planes and plenty of civilization. But
Yeah.
that's just that's the conception of people that like the perception is everything, right? In that sense, right? And it just goes to show you how foolish we can be in that sense. But have you ever heard of Commander Fravor? He's it's because of the point you brought up earlier about them visiting us and maybe not necessarily being wanting to be seen. You should look it up if you haven't. It's on YouTube and it's all over the place. And he says he was
What's
a fighter jet. I don't know if I forgot what his ranking was, but he commanded a fighter jet and he
what's his
piloted a
name?
fighter jet rather. And he says he saw a tic tac looking object in the sky, and he tried to approach it with his fighter jet. And as he was approaching it and getting closer, because I go, what the fuck is this? It was like elliptical in its movements. Like it was like teleporting from place to place. It'd be right here, then it'd be right here. And he's like
Mhm,
trying to get closer, just get his eyes on it. And he's like, there's nothing that could possibly move like that. And he says he saw it with his own eyes, and he's very credible and stuff like
mhm,
that. And it's just an insane story. So
mhm.
like what technology do you envision a civilization that's potentially billions of years old having over us? Just off the top of your head.
Oh man, well it would have to be some sort of gravity, some sort of thing to manipulate gravity, obviously, right? Because like you can tell, like fighter jets when they hit the certain Mach, when they're hitting those G forces, like the guys they'll get knocked out, they'll go unconscious sometimes. You know what I mean? Like these guys train to take these G forces, and then you got some that's moving like boom boom like that. It doesn't make sense for something living to be in there. Like you would literally crush your whole body to the side as soon as the thing would move. When you see these UFO videos, like it doesn't make sense that there would be something in there that'd be able to survive those G forces. So it would have to be some sort of gravity thing. I forget what it was. It was some sci-fi thing, and it said that instead of moving the ship, um, it was some sci-fi thing of how an engine, a futuristic engine, would work, but it would actually manipulate the universe around it and move the universe around the actual object instead of the object moving through the universe. I forget what it's called, but
Sounds like
yeah.
something Bob Lazar has actually talked about. If you ever, I'm sure you've heard about
Yes,
it.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I watched that.
Yeah, it's like the quote unquote they call it all different names, grays, aliens,
Hmm.
extraterrestrials, whatever you want to call them. And uh the ship uses some type of propulsion system that, like, the one we use is like the combustible engine or whatever, and we have some fucking
Hmm.
fire and smoke coming out the back to propel us. You
It's
fucking
archaic. It's archaic.
yeah, we're so lame. And like what they do is like almost like sounds like the complete, like, all it does, like complete opposite, with like some magic and like sci-fi mixed in, is that they manipulate what's in front of them. Like it's like a distortion of gravity to go forward. And it's kind of cool to see like
Yeah.
Bob Lazar talking about how the UFOs aren't like what you think they are, where it's like in terms of how they move. Is like, oh, they're just like this, they're like he says that they fly like kind of belly up to use that gravity manipulator and stuff like that, right? And
Hmm.
then, like, if
Hmm.
that, like, I just wish there was a way to know. I don't, who's to say, but imagine if he's bullshitting. But
Yeah,
also,
I know,
but if
right?
he's bullshitting, he's just a great, I mean, one thing to say to his credit is that his story's never changed. That's
Yeah.
the weirdest thing. And he
Hmm.
doesn't go around to every Nevada fucking fan expo and start selling t-shirts and saying they're fucking here, bro. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
yeah. He's not. It's. I don't think he's making like crazy amounts of
yeah.
money off it. Like,
Doesn't seem like he's making bank, and there's so much shit, and there's like newspapers that have been unearthed of him, like from back in the time he was working for Area 51 and all this shit. And it's like, yo, man, like, if this guy's like for real, like, what the fuck does that mean? It's
Mhm.
like, it boggles the mind for what could potentially be out there. And it makes you think too, right? Like, even like the ways, this is another question I was going to get to that I want to get your 2 cents on, because this rabbit hole we could go down forever, and me and you could talk about it forever. So I want to try to hit
Mhm.
as many key points as I can, but
Yeah, yeah.
because I don't want to bore the people to death. But it's like, look at TVs. I remember like 10 years ago, um like, the reason why I'm bringing this up is, what could they potentially have under lock and key, like governments, the one percenters of the world, right? It's like 10 years
Hmm.
ago, I bought a TV that was like, I think it was like 32 inches, and it cost me like 2 grand. And it was like an
Oh
LCD,
yeah.
whatever was good at the time, right? And
Plasma TV.
yeah, that old shit, right? And
Yeah.
and like, I paid an arm and a leg, and like now I fucking can buy like the same TV for like $200,
Yeah.
if not less. And it's like, okay, so like, are you spoon feeding us technology because you don't want the civilization to get out of control? Like, we've had Bluetooth for 100 years, but give it to them in like 2006, because these monkeys get out of control. So like,
Well,
what do you think can be under lock and key that we don't know about?
oh man, like that's what I mean. There could be anything. Like if you think about it, like yeah, computers were probably around for however like couple decades before they actually put them out into the media, and like it makes sense. You know what I mean? Everyone is money hungry nowadays. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like everyone, why would you release everything at once when you can be like, okay, well here's a little bit of a piece, and we'll jack up the price to this much. You know what I mean? Everyone's gonna buy this new technology and then spoon feed them another little bit. You know what I mean? It's crazy, but the money it runs the world, right? So
yeah,
like they could have anything, man. Like who knows? You don't know, like especially the military. Like the military isn't even like the top notch people that probably have this technology. I think there's those other black. I don't even know what you call it. The
you racist son
uh,
of a bitch. Black
no,
ops guys or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
those things you don't even hear about these types of groups that are in like deep seated in the military. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I think man they could have gravitation. They could have gravitational energy stuff like that. Like even the Bob Lazar guy, he said he's like, where do you think they got all this like what was it? The night vision and all that shit. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it was after they recovered this UFO, the Area 51, apparently, the Area 51 UFO, that they started getting all of a sudden computers came, like microchips. And then
How coincidental.
I know night vision came out. All this stuff all of a sudden after this Area 51 thing started coming out, and they're like, you know what I mean? It's their you know what they call it, backward engineering, like the back
Yeah.
engineering, yeah,
Yeah,
something
which
like
is
that.
essentially what seems as though what essentially Bob Lazar and his team were hired for, which was to like, you know,
Yes.
just fucking try to extrapolate as much as you possibly can about this foreign technology. And there's all types of claims about it. He received documents saying this spaceship is from the constellation Zeta Articuli. I'm sure I'm fucking up the word. Like so, and it's like okay. And he thought it's funny because when he got in there, he thought it was like a mental aptitude test, which it kind of
Hmm.
makes sense. Like I've had those
Hmm.
fucked up aptitude tests too for like certain jobs or whatever. And it's like, would you, if you were at a comedy show, it's like a mind question, right? It's like if you're at a comedy show and the comedian makes fun of one of the people in the crowd, would you laugh? And I have to lie and say, no, I would not laugh. How dare he? But in my mind, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm the first one to
Yeah,
laugh, right? So
yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's what he thought. He didn't think like it's actually deeper than this, right? So it's really like
Hmm.
fucking insane, like how deep things go in that sense, right? But
Hmm.
I just wanted to switch gears on from the aliens and the civilizations and stuff like that. And I wanted to get
Hmm.
into some of the work you've done with with your own personal experiences with cards and the paranormal. Um,
Okay.
I know if correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Wiccan? Is that
Wiccan,
one?
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
you've had some fucked up experiences. So why don't you tell us a bit about it?
Holy shit. Yeah, I don't know where to start. Yeah,
We'll
I
do
don't
a
know,
part
like,
two, people. Don't worry, there'll be a sequel to this.
yeah, like, I don't know, even when I was like, even growing up as a kid, like, I felt like I was, I don't know, I was sensitive to things, you know what I mean? Like, I would have dreams, where I'd see like my friends like sleeping, but like they'd be in my room. And like I remember, and like there'd be people standing in my room, and I thought, you know, just a kid, maybe there was like kid dreams and stuff like that. But it used to happen like pretty often. And I'd always go up to my mom and tell her that. I'd be like, "There's people in my room. There's people in my room, right?" And she's like, "No, buddy, like there's no people." And like, who knows? Maybe it was a kid thing. Like still to this day, like I'm just kind of, you know, I take everything with a grain of salt, except for my own experiences. And you know, it stopped like once I started getting older. It calmed down a little bit, right? And then once I got older, I started getting into the Wiccan stuff and the rituals. I started getting really world religions and stuff like that was always a big. It was just a pastime for me, right? A hobby, just looking it up and stuff. I started getting into more of the occult stuff and doing stuff like astral projection, doing
Uh,
trying sleep
sorry,
meditations and stuff like that.
sorry. Quick question: how did you come across it? Like how
Oh,
like did somebody just come and drop like a fucking like a page on your desk and say this is what you need to get into, or like how like how did you
no.
stumble on it? Because a lot of people might like I myself have had small doses of what you've experienced. I don't
Mhm,
think nowhere near as like extreme as what you're describing, and like
mhm.
we I think by addressing how you've found like your way and solutions in it would help a lot of people out there that might be listening gain traction to help their own, if they're on their own similar journey, right? So how did you come across like the occult and stuff like that?
Okay. Well, you probably know because we've talked about this before, but I
Yeah.
went through some crappy times in my life, and to the point where I thought I
Let the
needed to
listeners
be.
know, Kev.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, no, I had to get sober for a bit, right? Because I was going through a lot of shit. And once I got sober, I really started dabbling in things that would interest me, that interest me that I would never, you know, I'd never go out on my own when I've been partying all the time. You know what I mean? I'd never had time to do that because I was too busy drinking and smoking and
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and clubbing and stuff like that. But
Acting a fool.
yeah, exactly. Still am, but you know, inside now.
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it just it became, I always loved world religions in high school, and then once I got sober, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna start dabbling into some more stuff more deeply than I used to, right? Actually try to understand stuff.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I got into just the occult and learning about the occult, and like you said before, like stuff on consciousness, like the three big ones, you know, like aliens, is there a god, where do we go when we die, you know, stuff like that. And I started getting really into Wiccan stuff, which is a lot of like nature ritualistic things like that, very pagan kind of stuff. And demonology, I got really deep into demonology, which was kind of dangerous at the same time, because especially my parents, they're not very religious, but they were like, my dad was looking at the books. Actually, I got a couple books here that I actually got to show you. It's probably backwards there, but this is Moon Spells. This is like one of the
Yeah.
first ones I started doing.
Yeah.
um just little ritual offerings, stuff like that. And then this is the Goetia, the Key of Solomon.
Okay.
So this had a bunch of stuff on the demons and stuff like that,
Yeah.
that Aleister Crowley drew, and you can see it's got the sigils and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
actually tried doing a few rituals. I started small with the Wiccan stuff,
Yeah.
and I just did like a small energy ritual. I think was my first one, and I actually called on an ancient god. I drew the sigil out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This lady at this shop, I was asking her about invoking things, like how to do the ritual thing. I just wanted to try it out because, like I said, I'm a realist. I like to base everything on my own experiences, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up trying this one out, and she said you shouldn't try to invoke anything. You shouldn't try to put a circle invoking anything because it's too dangerous. You're too young. Like you're not knowledgeable enough to do it properly to the point where it's going to work out as a benefit for you.
Right.
But I was like, again, I was like, okay, whatever. Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
try it out anyways, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And and it was weird. I think do you remember me showing you the video of what happened? The
I
lights.
do. Yeah. Quite vividly. That was some freaky
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. And like the crazy thing was is that yeah, so I did this ritual, and about a half hour later, anyways, for the viewers,
Yeah.
my lights in any room I would go into, and I thought at first it was like a surge going through my house, and I lived with my parents at the time, so I asked them, I'd walk into a room and the lights would aggressively like that, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, my hair was standing up on my, like all over, right? And so I went upstairs, turned off the lights. I was freaked right out. I was like, I'm getting out of this basement. 'Cause that's where I did the thing. And then as soon as I walked to my kitchen, same thing, right? And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, this is insane. I went to my parents' room. I'm like, all right, or sorry, I didn't even go in it. I yelled them down the hall. I'm like, hey, is your guys' light flickering? So I could see their light on in their room, and they're like, no, no, everything's good. So it was pretty intense, and I actually missed the most aggressive point of it because I was fumbling with my phone because I was so freaked out, right?
Yeah.
But you see in the footage of, you know, the lights going boom 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 like
Yeah.
that, and yeah, that was pretty crazy. And then I actually had a bunch of bad things start happening to me. I was waking up at night, and I was feeling like there was something in my room, like behind me almost, which was crazy because my room, you know, my bed's to the back of the wall. But I kept on feeling like there was something behind me.
Yeah.
And like I'd wake up and I'd feel like something grabbed me, and it was like I was waking up terrified, but like I wasn't having any nightmares. You know what I mean? So it was some weird stuff that started happening, and I actually had a friend go see a psychic, and she was getting a reading done, and I've never gone to see a psychic. I don't really believe in that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but the stuff she was describing was saying that all of her spiritual people were pushing her spirit guides aside. My spirit guides were pushed aside because they were trying to tell me that what I was doing was bad and I
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing it. And she came and started telling me that, and at first I was like, okay, that's kind of bullshit. But then she started telling me like the details that
Yeah.
she was talking about me. And I was like, okay, no, this is fucked. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
holy shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty freaky. So I kind of just after that I stuck to little things like little full moon rituals where you just like take a sip of some wine in a chalice, you say a couple things, let all your energy go on like the new moon, you know what I mean? So I kind of backed away from like the actual hardcore rituals because that scared the shit out of me. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like you could be invoking something like a Ouija board, or the definitely not a I'm probably the least qualified to comment on how to interact with the paranormal, but uh,
Mhm,
I guess, that's a quite a wallop of information, but
mhm,
uh, it's definitely difficult to revisit some of that. I'm sure it probably has some triggers and stuff like that in it. But
mhm,
what has helped you, if anything, because I know some of this has happened in the past, like years ago and stuff like this.
mhm.
What's helped taper some of it off? Like, what methods are you using now that are effective, that have like calmed down those swells of this shit happening, or is it now these days
Mhm.
as strong as it ever was, which I don't know. How is it going? How are things hanging these days with it?
So like I said, when I was like going through all this, I was sober, completely sober, right?
Right.
And I feel like that again was like it like they say like when you smoke and drink it callous, right? Your pineal gland is like your spiritual gland, right?
Yeah.
And it callous when you're doing drugs and you're drinking all the time. As you would like with like the paranormal and the stuff like that. You don't get that much when you're drinking and doing drugs and stuff over. Um, it was crazy. Like it was, I felt like I was having out of body experiences, and this was like months down the road. This wasn't like a month into me being sober because a lot of people experience this stuff getting sober. This was like 5 6 months down the road. I was having out of body experiences. I was having sleep paralysis more often, which I'd only had I think twice before that. And sleep paralysis is crazy. If you've ever had it, scariest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And I've been through some shit. And like
Yeah,
sleep
yeah.
paralysis was in absolutely insane, man. I've never been so scared in my life.
Just to like
And
give people some context here, this guy likes to fucking get on his skateboard and jump 20 feet in the air and fall onto cement and crack his head open on pipes, and he thinks that's not scary. But if he's saying that this shit is scary, you fucking believe it.
Oh, buddy, I'm scared of anything I can't beat up. Okay, so like ghosts and shit and demons, you can't punch them, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
some
but
Casper.
yeah, no. So the one thing that kind of made it calm down, to be honest, is once I started drinking again, and like not heavily, but like I was drinking on the weekends again, started smoking weed again.
Yeah,
It all started dissipating again, to be honest, because it just it dulls your senses, right? So
yeah.
in a way, it kind of helped, which is bad to say. Don't do drugs, don't drink. It doesn't really help your problems. But no, I found it's dulled itself out a lot. But I
Yeah.
still get some crazy stuff that happens sometimes, and but
Well,
it's
it might have a lot to do with it might have a lot to do with you coming to terms with it too, right? Outside of like
mhm,
fucking, like whatever, drinking, smoking and shit like that to kind of like, suppress it, quote unquote. Uh,
mhm,
maybe you had to kind of go through it to like, grow and understand and know that you have this ability, right?
yeah, and even like when I seen a psychiatrist there for a while too, when I was going through all my shit, and she even said, she's like, do you think like, because I told her about all my experiences as a kid,
Yeah.
she's like, do you think like the drinking and stuff like was because of this? And I'm like, I don't think it was, but I think like once like I realized it was helping, like you know what I mean, like the stuff started going away. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but now when I think back, and I'm like, oh, who knows, maybe. But you know what I mean? Like, cause I'd always be like, I'd be like, man, I swear to God, I have these vivid memories of people in my room, like, and you know what I mean? And I still have the images of people sleeping beside my floor, like they were laying down beside me on the bed. Like it
Yeah.
was weird. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's it's fucking freaky, man. And like, I mean, when I think about just what you might like, kind of, again, like barbiturates, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is,
Mhm,
I know we're not trying to promote it, but it's also like, if you can handle a beer, like a single beer at a party without, tripping and falling down and
mhm,
needing to be carried out or stuff like this, I mean, like, it's not the end of the world. If you're having a fucking, if you're having a spliff every now and then, and you're able to operate and do your, go to work and be a good boyfriend, be a good friend, okay, what's the big deal, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just, people need to be a little bit more open and accepting to drug culture and like, alcohol and stuff like that to a certain degree, right? Obviously, when it becomes a
Mhm,
problem, balance is key to everything, right? So
mhm,
Yeah, it's that's a there's so much gray area in there that being heavy-handed one way or the other can sometimes not be the most sensible way to go, right?
Hmm.
So what are you so tell us a little bit about the cards like themselves. Like how do you what type of reading stuff like that do you get out of
The
cards?
tarot,
That's right, yeah.
the tarot cards. Yeah, the tarot cards were cool because yeah, when I was, I was like I said, I love dabbling in like any sort of like little occult stuff when I was going through all this. So the tarot cards were awesome because it was just like you buy them and then they tell you, it just kind of shows you how to really get good readings out of it. Like you're really not. Some people do it. Some people are more superstitious about them. You're not supposed to do readings on yourself,
Yeah,
but you're supposed to do readings on other people, and that's kind of how you do it. You connect through the cards to be able to connect through other people. So I didn't do a lot of readings on myself. I do it a lot more on other people, and I read to meditate on each card, for 5 minutes a night. Just sit there alone in your own thoughts and just look at the card, try to make out what's actually on the card, and see about the imagery and stuff like that on each card, right? Get to really know them before you start doing it, right? And I'd still need like a little book to go through, when I'd be doing them. I didn't I'm by no way like remember these all off by heart, right? So
yeah, yeah,
it was but I found once I started doing it more often, the more accurate it would get. And like I wouldn't know myself. It was through other people, right?
yeah,
And I'd be like boom, boom, boom. I'd put the cards on. I just did like a 2 or 3 card reading to
right.
people, and they would I'd just be like, just think about something, a question, like a question. Yes, it can be yes or no. It can be something you need guidance with, which I find those cards are more for guidance. It doesn't
Yeah,
really give you a straight answer. Usually, it's more of a guidance answer, right?
yeah,
And then just watching people's faces, just that's how I know it would work. When I'd start reading the book to them, right, the cards that I got and what it means, whether they were upside down or inverted or whatever, right, and I tell them the thing, and watching their faces go, like holy shit, and I'd
right.
be like, okay, I'd be like, all right, these are working, like cool, and like it would make, I made one of my buddies cry one time. I'm like, okay, relax, like I'm sorry, like
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it's so yeah, it was cool to see
So so why
you know,
why is it that you have faith and belief in tarot, but you think that psychic readings are more of scam artists? What's the fine line here? What's the difference exactly? Like why do you
See,
yeah,
I used to think that that the psychic thing was a sham, right? Because I'm
yeah,
like, they'd probably just say familiar things that fucking involve pretty much in anyone's life, right?
yeah, yeah,
But then when that girl started telling me what this lady was saying, I was
yeah,
like, okay. I was like, okay, okay, that's weird. Okay, that's even fucking weirder.
yeah,
Like this lady somehow knew that I was filming for my buddy's music video,
yeah,
and we were in an abandoned town filming this, and we went. It's an old military town, an old insane asylum, but they have old underground bomb bunkers, and we
some
were in
random
there, and
shit. Yeah,
oh, bro, it was crazy, man. It was like the pitch dark, and it's underground and like this big hill, and
yeah,
like, oh, it was crazy. There's all these tags and like big like pentagrams and stuff in there, and it was like God isn't here and shit. And I'm like, oh, kids just trying to scare you, but
yeah,
this lady knew that I was there, like within like a week ago. She's like, oh, he was in like some abandoned place like a week ago, in a dark place, like a basement. I'm like, bro, like I was
yeah,
literally filming inside of a bomb bunker a week ago. I'm
yeah,
like, okay, that's weird. That weirded me out. And then so, no, I believe in there's a psychic. I believe in psychics and stuff like that. Now, after that, I
yeah,
was like, okay, and I believe like anyone can kind of tap into that. You know what I mean? I feel like um, obviously there's more people that are sensitive to it, but I believe that there's a universal, um, I don't even know, like a knowledge base in the universe that you can tap into. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I forget who it was, but the one guy who found out that really crazy math equation for the speed of light, it came to him in a dream. The guy was like a pianist. He wasn't even a fucking mathematician. And then all of a sudden he's like, man, okay, he wrote down this thing that he kept seeing in his dream,
yeah,
brought it to one of his mathematician buddies, and they're like, oh, okay, you just like, this is the speed of light. It's like, I don't know if it was that equation specifically, but I remember I read up a thing or I watched a YouTube video
No,
on it,
it's
and yeah.
happened. Like there was also some, I can't, again, I just sometimes my memory's not what it used to be, but there was somebody who had a dream that the general consensus was that the world is like the center of the universe and we're flat or whatever it was. I'm not even gonna bother getting into all the flat Earth shit, but this guy
Yeah.
was just he had a dream that he flew out of Earth and flew into outer space and saw stars and planets and moons and all that shit, and that gave him like the conviction to move forward and say that, you know what, it could be a solar system and all this. And then when he started making those claims, they wanted to burn him and execute him and condemn him for all types of shit. And that's usually how it goes, right? So you saying having connectivity to a higher consciousness in the universe and stuff like that, I mean, people might consider it far-fetched, but I would say a lot of those people are disconnected with their own spirituality and their own, like emotions and stuff like that, right? Because
Mhm.
people are just so pre-programmed and stuff. I mean, my own personal views is that as much as I love you, it's like I personally I can't to say to, and this is nothing, not a reflection on you, but when it comes to psychic
Yeah.
and stuff like that, right? I think you're a pretty genuine, honest guy. I don't think you're bullshitting me. I just think that I can't say yes and I can't say no, like to a
You're
psychic
like
or
you're
anyone.
like you're like you're like me though, right? You got to experience it for yourself.
That exactly. That's what it is. I'm like, look, man, like fuck, like
Mhm.
I hate the guy that comes and it's like somebody like says something like, yo, man, this is like, this is crazy, but I saw so and so, and like, they're not okay. Okay, like let me like like a quick like vignette here is
Mhm.
that there's the waters are so muddied in so many industries of like mythos and stories and genres in that sense. And what
Mhm.
I mean by that is like a guy fucking some hunter in like the camo outfit runs out of the woods with a rifle and he's like, I just fucking saw Bigfoot. Fucking guy was like 12 feet tall. I tried shooting at him. Oh fuck, he came at me with his claws. Or like a guy that's like, oh yeah, I've been abducted by UFOs. They anally probed me and this shit. And it's like, and then the psychic that's like, yeah, I can tell you your future. You just got to pay me $500, and they're gonna
Yeah.
tell you your dad's in the room right now. He misses you. I'm like, okay. So
Yeah.
there's so much nonsense in these circles that it makes it tricky to get to the truth. That like
Mhm.
I'm with you, man. I have some crazy dreams. I think
Mhm.
I've been in sleep paralysis. I've had these fucked up
Mhm.
things, and I'm like, what? Like this mixed box. What's going on? It can't all be like totally explained away through logic and shit like that. There's something
No.
grander going on here. I'm with you on it. It's just fuck, man, there's so many people that muddy the waters. And then that's one of the
Mhm.
reasons why I wanted to get your shit out here is
Mhm.
because people will be able to hear you and say, you know what, this guy doesn't seem like a fucking guy selling lemonade on the corner, or rather Kool-Aid, his Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? That's probably a better analogy. And like,
Yeah.
and it just, and people are going through this, man. Like, and they're wondering and they're
Mhm.
asking questions, and people are staying home right now a lot, and they have so much
Mhm.
time, and they're like,
Mhm.
oh, I want to be a creative now, or I want to learn this or that, and I want to explore this, and they're like, fuck, how I haven't asked these questions before. And by you talking about this,
Mhm.
man, you're giving a lot of people
Mhm.
clarity. That's the
Yeah.
that's the whole fucking point. Like let's
Mhm.
open this discussion up and make a dialogue. Like fucking, if people
Mhm.
don't hear about this stuff, then they just become more confused, I think. And now it's more like this is a big, like, this is an aid. This helps. So
Mhm.
yeah. Anyways, I know it's
And
2 o'clock now. You gotta take off.
oh yeah. 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 Gotta go visit my godson.
Yeah, I know. We got a little caught up there, but hey, man, that's
Yeah. No
okay.
worries, man.
Quality
Yeah. Yeah.
conversation, man. I had lots of fun, and I'm sure people listening did too. So, Cap,
Yeah.
tell us in closing, where can people find you? Where they can find a little bit about your band and stuff like that.
My Instagram
Tell
is
yourself.
my Instagram is kev.unpleasant.
Yeah.
And my band's Instagram is Fracture the Sky Bands. That is the handle. And I also wanted to shout out my other buddies, metal band Being. They're from London and Barrie. They're also awesome. If you guys are into metal, check them out too. And yeah, thanks for having me, buddy. I appreciate it. And hopefully we can do this again. I enjoy the conversations.
100%, man. We're definitely gonna do it again because we could do 8 of these.
Oh, buddy, I got way more to talk about.
Yeah, easily. Just off the top of my head, I could, we could crush 8 of these, and like it would be like a man. We could keep on going forever. Like just that's
Yeah,
just the chemistry we have. No homo,
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
homo.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you can always check out our podcast at Toronto North. We're on Twitter, and this is going to be up and running soon, this episode, and can't wait to do it again, buddy. I had a great time. I enjoyed it a lot, and
Hell yeah, man.
yeah. So I'll see you off for now, and we'll be in touch soon.
Okay, man. Thanks again.